you know, it's that time of year we start thinking about a lot of things.
Yeah.
We get really stressful. Maybe our jobs are stressing us out, and this is the time we're thinking, I need a change.
What are you saying? You're leaving the show? What?
No, you are, aren't you? No, I'm kidding. Nobody's leaving anything. But we do have someone here who can help us sort of decide on how to go about to make that career change, because I guess you can't just up and say, okay, I'm done, see you later. So we have George Dutch. You are from Job Joy. I mean, you're not from there, but it's our monthly segment we call Job Joy. You're a career passion consultant. You can tell us how to take us from what we are really not loving.
Yeah, that's right, Catherine. We're on the cusp of a new year, and a lot of people are making New Year's resolutions, and some of them might be thinking, this is the year I'm going to do it. I'm going to make a change. So I thought we would cover a little bit about career transitions, talk about some of the demystify it, and talk about some of the key elements of it.
So let's start off right away. I'm looking for a job. Say I'm in a job I don't
you're not looking for a job
like,
yet. The first
right?
thing you have to do is you have to do an assessment to identify where you should work and what you should do. That's what career decision making comes down to, answering very specifically with clarity and some confidence. This is where I want to work, the organization that's going to motivate me as well as recognize and reward me. And here's what I want to do. Here's the best job title that fits my combination of talents and skills and education and experience.
So how do I go about that assessment?
Well, there's a number of different assessment tools out there. I prefer an autobiographical approach. I like to do a deep analysis of people's innate talents. And I look at those times in their life when they're doing what they enjoy most and doing it well, no matter how trivial it is. Most people make a career decision based on looking at the external environment, what's out there. Oh, there's going to be a shortage of those kind of jobs. I'm going to try to fit into there. But sometimes it's like fitting in a square peg into a round hole. I think most people need to back up a bit and look at what their natural strengths are.
So that's what we do. We sort of look. It doesn't even matter if it's something in childhood. Hey, when I was a kid, I liked doing this. So
our talents start, it's funny you say that, our talents start to show up around age 8. You know, around age 8, we know, like everybody goes to school and takes the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But around age 8, we start to know which kids in the class have an aptitude for math, which ones have an aptitude for storytelling or story writing, and so on.
So after we make our assessment, okay, this is the type of job I really want to do. This is where my talents lie. Then what do I do?
It's probably not just going to be one job. It's probably going to be a dozen, even a couple of dozen jobs that you're suited for. The next step is what I call targeting. We'll go from assessment to targeting. You have some clarity about what you're suited for. Now, can you translate that into reality? Do those jobs exist in the geographic location you live in? You live in Ottawa. You know, what you're suited to do, does that exist in Ottawa? What kinds of companies match up with the work setting that you most prefer, that you're best suited for? And what are the prospects of getting employed in those companies? What are the kinds of challenges or issues driving that industry or those organizations? Where would you fit in? How could you bring a value proposition to those organizations?
So I guess now it comes down to research. This is when you get on the web and you do a lot of research.
Not just the web, but you start reading trade magazines, you start going to websites serving certain kinds of associations or professional groups. You've got to do the research. You're right, Catherine. A lot of people want to skip over that part, but in my view, it's probably the second most important part.
Now, you mentioned geographic location. Is the job that I want to do or I'm good at doing, is it in this region? Do you find that holds a lot of people back relocating?
Yeah, I think what holds a lot of people back is assumptions about what exists and what doesn't exist. For example, some people might say, I want to work in the film production industry. Well, Ottawa is not a center for film production. You know, Hollywood is a center for film production, New York, and in Canada, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Halifax. But there is a film industry here, a film production industry. So people should research first what exists, and then if they can't find something to match them, then they have to consider looking at relocating.
Yeah, I guess you have to look at it. Let's look at the television and film industry itself in Ottawa. Let's look at where you want to go and where you want to be, right? Because I know that when I, trying to get into the entertainment business myself, people would say, well, why aren't you in Toronto? Why aren't you in Vancouver? Sure. But you have to measure things. There might be thousands of more jobs in Toronto available, but there's thousands of more people that you're competing against too, right?
Very good point, Derek. And again, people shouldn't make assumptions about what exists and doesn't exist. I worked with a client in the last few years that was a legal secretary and now works in the film production industry in Ottawa as a prop master.
Wow. Now how can I fit you into all this? Let's say, okay, I know I don't want to stay where I am. I've done some research. I know where I want to go. Could you be the person to tell me, you're dreaming, you're way off base? Do people really just sort of go somewhere that they shouldn't even think of, consider, and then, could you help prevent someone from flopping? Not going where they should have gone? Or?
Sure, I think that's one of the advantages of having an assessment done, is that, again, people make decisions sometimes not based on self-knowledge, but on aspirations that are fueled by other factors like what their family expects of them or what their friends are telling them they should do. And they'll make a decision based on something that doesn't come from a deep understanding of who and what they are and how that correlates with the world of work. So an assessment can help them avoid that problem.
So we looked at the first two phases: assessment, targeting. What's the third one?
Third one is marketing. Once you know where you want to work and you've identified prospects in the geographic location you prefer, now you have to do a marketing campaign. Now you have to break into that industry. And there's lots of familiar tools like a resume, for example, and learning how to do the job search, how to get into those companies, how to open doors, how to get face-to-face with hiring managers that want to hear your value proposition. And then you have to go through the whole interview thing, learning how to handle an interview, how to do salary negotiation, the marketing part.
And when you talked about resumes, you know, I hadn't had to do a resume for a long time when I, you know, wanted to work here. I was a teacher, but a long time ago. And when I went on the internet, there are so many different kinds of resumes for so many different kinds of jobs. You know, very serious, complex for a big complex job, and then one for the entertainment industry. When I landed on it, I thought, this is, you know, this can't be your resume, but it's different because you're showing, it's that side of yourself. So you also have to match your paperwork to the people you want to appeal to, don't you?
Yes, and you have to leverage, you know, who and what you are, your value, into that paperwork, in the way that you present yourself. And we're going to, funnily enough, we're going to cover that next month.
Oh, good.
In the new year, we're going to cover resumes, and we're going to go into it in detail. The point I want to make is that a marketing campaign just isn't about resumes. It's a lot more than that.
Right.
True.
Now, is it important too, George, because I think a lot of people fall into this problem, you know, what you're good at and what I'd like to do, right? Aren't they two very different things?
Well, they can be, but they might correlate a lot closer than you think. And what you like to do, what does that mean specifically in terms of the activities that you perform, the kind of core job duties you want to perform on a regular or frequent basis? Or is it what you like to do mean the ideal job, the dream job? And
exactly.
Right.
What I like to do is to be a couch potato. Will
That doesn't
take me
pay,
anywhere?
girlfriend. No, sorry. Don't go away. We'll be